Okay, so I think we're live. So, hi Thrivers and anyone else joining us today for Thrive's very first Earth Day webinar. My name is Maylin and I'm a fourth year student at Simon Fraser University, or SFU. And this webinar is in collaboration with Ban the Bottle, a student club at SFU that advocates for the reduction and elimination of single-use plastics, as well as educating others on the social and environmental impacts of single-use plastic waste. And joining us today are three environmentally focused entrepreneurs, Ben, Stephanie, and Stuart, to discuss the product lifecycle and the environmental impacts of our consumer behavior. So thank you all for taking the time out of your day to be here with us. And for starters, can you introduce yourselves, tell us about your company and what motivated you to start your own social impact startup? And Ben, would you like to start us off?
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much for hosting this webinar. So in Canada, 58% of food produced is wasted, and unavoidable food waste is worth $49 billion every single year. And so We Think Together Consulting is a food consultancy based in Vancouver, BC, with expertise in food waste prevention. And so for hotels and restaurants, we provide expertise, technology, and a certification program to improve financial and sustainability performance. And for consumer, we provide games and workshop to save food and money. And so yeah, because preventing food waste, it's good for the bottom line and it's good for the environment. Because food waste accounts globally to 8% of total CO2 emissions. So it's a huge impact on the environment as well.
Thank you for that. And Ben, would you like to go? Thank you, Ben. And Stuart, if you could go next, please.
Certainly. I'm Stuart Wood from Last Bottle Clothing, where we're on a mission to tackle plastic pollution and revolutionize the apparel industry. So we make our clothes entirely out of recycled plastic bottles, and just as importantly, we make our clothes to be recycled at the end of life. So when our customers are done with our soft, comfortable clothes, 5-10 years down the road, they send them back to us, we chop them up, we melt them down, and we make them into brand new clothing. The World Economic Forum has forecasted that by 2050, there's going to be more plastic in the ocean than there are fish. And to me, that's frightening. So in my viewpoint, we need to figure out a way to take the plastic that's already been manufactured and reuse it over and over again to keep it out of the environment. We also do need to ban the bottle and stop the production of plastic as well. And lastly, the apparel industry, and we all wear clothes, it turns out it's the second most polluting industry in the world. So we think that if we can force the likes of Nike, Under Armour, and Adidas to change their supply chains to being least impactful and closed loop, that we can actually have a true impact on the environment that our future grandkids will inherit. So that's what we're doing at Last Bottle Clothing.
Thank you for that. And then Stephanie?
Yeah, hey everybody, and happy Earth Day. I am Stephanie McClarty. You can call me Steph as well, and I am founder and CEO of Refficient. We help companies to be efficient with resources, hence Refficient, through reuse and recycling solutions. So we focus on the telecom industry, and basically when the large service providers upgrade their networks and pull up their old equipment, we help them to resell and recycle it. So we're optimizing reuse so that no technology goes to waste unless it's absolutely not usable. And we provide sustainability reporting. We are a certified B Corp, and we are now 10 years old, which is a great milestone for us. And I want you to know, so how I got started is that when I was graduating university, way back when, I didn't know what I was going to do. And so I ended up traveling for a couple of years. I went to India, to Thailand, and I got a job in between semesters of my master's in a telecom company. And I had no idea going into this about telecom infrastructure equipment, but I helped this company to figure out what to do with all their old equipment. And I could see that it wasn't a priority for them, but there was all this equipment going to waste that other companies wanted. And that's how it all got started. And I started consulting for a couple of years and then launched Refficient as a technology-based solution. So just to tell you that if you're in the space where you don't know what you want to do, it's okay. Let the path of life guide you, which I'll talk a little bit more later in terms of my advice to you. So that's a little bit about us.
Thank you all for that. And so, yeah, as Stephanie mentioned, today is Earth Day, and we would just like to create awareness about pollution, sustainability, and also to just celebrate the environment. And you all three are in very different sectors. So to get started with our first question, what steps have you taken to reduce the environmental impact your company produces through its activities? So for example, the shipping of your products or any carbon footprint. And I guess we can start with Stuart.
Certainly. So above and beyond just using plastic bottles in a closed loop manufacturing system, we also use 500 times less fresh water than organic cotton. We use no pesticides or defoliants, unlike your standard cottons. Virgin polyester, when we all wear polyester clothes, the raw material for that is crude oil coming out of the Gulf of Mexico and the Middle East, whereas our raw material is plastic garbage that is from right here in the southeastern United States, where we are based in Atlanta, Georgia. We take all of the scraps in our manufacturing process and recycle those as we're going through. We also ship everything in recycled and recyclable and reusable plastic envelopes. And we do all of our manufacturing in a 200-mile radius of Atlanta, Georgia. So the vast majority of clothing travels about 16,000 miles across the low-cost supply chain around the world before it gets to us. Our clothes are significantly smaller and have a significantly smaller distance, so we have a much smaller carbon footprint as well. So we're not perfect, but we're trying to get to perfection.
And then let's move on to
Yeah, so we are beyond what we do as a company in terms of reuse. We do lots of things that, they just make sense. They help save money and they're just efficient. One is reusing packaging supplies. So we reuse boxes where possible. We also consolidate shipments when they're going to a customer. So often a customer will buy, multiple products from us and at different times. And where possible, we will consolidate together to send to them. And some of our customers are in really remote locations, so it's also really saving on shipping costs for them. From a marketing perspective, a lot of things are virtual, but some of the really innovative things we've done are using seed paper to send to our customers. So they're plantable postcards. You probably have seen, with seeds embedded in them. And we have a clever marketing message that says, grow your savings and grow wildflowers or grow herbs, depending on the type of seed paper that we use. And it's a really effective marketing tool that makes a statement and is essentially zero waste, because then you can plant it after. And then finally, something that's maybe there's not as much awareness around, but makes so much sense environmentally, is we've shifted even our employees and how they work to create win-win solutions. We have a 980 work week at our company. So meaning that you work 80 hours over 9 days. So every 2-week period, you work 9 days and you get every other Friday off. And it's just shifting. You work a little longer than 8 hours each of those days that you do work, and you get every other Friday off. And the great thing about this is it's good for the environment because you're only coming to work 9 days and not 10. So there's that extra day where you don't actually have to physically travel for those that do travel into work. But also the employees are happier. They love it. They love having every other Friday off, and the extra, half hour, 40 minutes per day that you do work, you don't really even notice. So it's win-win in terms of the environment, but also in terms of employee satisfaction.
Thank you for that. I think employee satisfaction is often forgotten about in these situations. And lastly, Ben, I know your company isn't really about creating a tangible product, but a service instead. So
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, indeed, we don't have any shipping costs. And by the way, I love the 80 hours over 9 days approach. It's pretty cool. But so we've been moving all our solution online. So basically avoiding us to do any transport related to delivering our solutions. And for traveling, we basically use car sharing when we need to go to meet customers. And we only travel by land as well. I haven't taken a plane for the last 5 years. And in terms of food waste, we also measure food waste on a daily basis. We walk the talk. That's what we are asking our customers to do. So we are doing it as well internally. And in terms of innovative approach as well, we are doing related to food. Like we've been doing some events as well, some consumer events like locally and even before the pandemic, but doing some creative recipe, for example, a banana peel cake. And yes, you can make amazing stuff with banana peels. So and many other food scraps. There is, by the way, a really cool food scraps cookbook from IKEA that has been released. But if you want to check out the banana peel cake recipe, it's on our blog on rethinktogether.com/blog.
Oh, that sounds great. And I love that all three of you promote sort of the circular economy going on, which feeds us into our next question of what different stages of a product life cycle do you primarily focus on when reducing waste? And why did you choose to focus it in that specific product life cycle stage? And I guess we can start with Stephanie.
Sure. So we primarily focus on reuse in the product life cycle. And the reason is it came out of need. We saw that there was equipment sitting there that could be reused. We saw the business case that if we just connected the suppliers of who had what sitting as surplus and who needed what, that there was an actual business there that we could follow. And it happened from there. So for us, it's all about the more that we can reuse, and mostly we reuse products in their entire state. So for example, the modems that are connecting our internet, that's the top thing that we resell. Set-top boxes, servers, network equipment, that kind of thing. That's what we reuse. And if it can't be reused in its entirety, then we look to see if there's any parts that can be reused. And then if there's no parts that can be reused, then we look to recycle it and recycle it responsibly. So that's us.
Thank you. And how would you recycle them responsibly? Like, there must be some products that are not able to be recycled. So what would you do with those products?
So we focus on electronics, and by and large, electronics can be shredded down to their components. When I say recycled responsibly, I mean we send them to a specific recycler that specializes in that and that has all of the appropriate certifications and that grinds them down and whatnot. There's a few cases where it's not able to be recycled, and then we unfortunately have to send them to the landfill, but it's very rare. Most of what we deal with is completely recyclable.
Okay, that's good to hear. And Ben, how about you?
Yeah, so in the food supply chain from farm to fork in Canada, it's $49 billion, which could be avoided basically on an annual basis. And this is like from farm to fork. And so we focus on the consumer stage and the hospitality stage because like consumers basically have the 21% of total avoidable food waste in Canada, and hospitality it's 13% of total avoidable food waste. We focus on consumers because there is a demand. We had feedback that, oh, that's great what you're proposing for hotels and restaurants, but what are you doing for myself? And an average Canadian household can actually save up to $1,100 every year. So there's a lot of money that can be saved as well. So check out our free tools, and we have a free quiz as well on our website. And why the hospitality industry? Because Canadian hospitality industry basically represents the waste generated in this industry. It's 1% of Canadian GDP. There is way more food waste in hotels and restaurants than at the retail levels compared to like what other people may think. Like people think, oh yeah, food waste at the supermarket, it's huge. But yes, it's huge, but in hotels and restaurants, it's even a bigger opportunity. So that's why we decided to to tackle this huge issue of food waste.
Yeah, that's a lot of food waste happening. And lastly, for Stuart, what kind of stage do you tackle the product?
Sure. So we focus across the board on all of our activities. However, what really differentiates us from our competition is that we believe that we're responsible for our product even after it's been purchased by consumers. That's why we're trying very hard to motivate our consumers to send the clothes back to us for recycling when they are done with those clothes, so they don't end up in the landfill. They don't end up out in the environment somewhere. So that's huge, though. So the vast majority of clothes don't go anywhere other than the landfill. Even if you donate your clothes at the end of life or end of useful life for you, the vast majority of the time they still end up in the landfill. And there's a lot of CO2 added to the atmosphere as those clothes are breaking down. We think it's vitally important that not only we do it, but that all companies selling their products should be responsible for their products all the way through the end of life. There are a lot of great brands out there, or there are a lot of brands out there that get a lot of credit for sustainability. I think of Rothy's shoes. They're great. They're made of plastic. But then I challenge people and I say, well, what do you do with those shoes at the end of life? They're like, well, I don't know. I just get rid of them. They're made from recycled plastic, so it's fine to just get rid of it. But if you think about it, if you're using a product that's made from recycled product and it has no end of life solution, you're only keeping that material out of the environment, out of the landfill for a few years at most. So it's really important that you push all of the companies that you support, and you support them by spending money on their goods and services, that you push them to be closed loop, that you push them to provide a solution for end of life, dealing with their products at the end of life. Not enough companies out there are doing it. And I don't think that we're going to get to a real state of sustainability in this world until we can find a way to force consumer good products in particular to really become circular.
Yeah, that's a good point made. And I guess from that, what would be, for the third question, what would be next on the sustainability horizon for you and your company? Is there a particular focus or project you're excited about? And I guess we can go back to Stuart on that first.
Sure. I like how you're giving each of us a turn to start. So we're very excited that we sell direct to customer through our website at lostbottleclothing.com, but we are trying very hard to bring our solution to companies that do uniforms and companies that give out T-shirts to their employees. So for an example, I worked for Home Depot for my career prior to starting Last Bottle Clothing. At Home Depot, we give out about 430,000 T-shirts every single year just for one or two team building or community building events. And what happens to those clothes? They go away, right? So we're trying very hard to provide a B2B solution, both for companies that are doing T-shirt giveaways as well as uniforms. It's early stages for us, but we think that we can really make a huge difference if we can help all of these companies that put uniforms on their employees close the loop on their apparel purchases.
Great. And did you mention that your clothings were made from recycled plastics, and then also once they send you back the clothing, you can also create new clothing from that? Are other plastics and other materials, are they able to be used to recreate new clothing as well?
They should be able to. We've only really dug into the plastic bottle world for this process, and it's not a simple solution. We expected a year of R&D before we could go to market with our solution. It took 3 years, and I'm sure that there are plenty of other opportunities out there, but just like many other things in life, it requires money to go and do that research and development. So I think it's very important to get governmental support where possible. And I know a lot of our audience and everybody else on this panel are from Canada. In the United States, with President Biden now talking about Green New Deal and becoming more sustainable, I have great hope that we can start to support business efforts to become more sustainable as well from a governmental standpoint. So thank you very much for the question.
Yeah, I think it's great what you all are doing, and it's a good example for other companies to jump on that as well. So moving on to Ben, what's next on the sustainability horizon for you?
Yeah, so we have a couple of projects. Like right now, we are doing different workshops within schools. We have 36 plans until June, so it's a great way for us to like educate like our future customers, and also like it's such a big such a big impact, and like empowering kids is extremely like valuable, I think, in terms of they're going to be the ones who are going to take decisions in the future. So that's exciting. And for the certification programs of Pledge on Food Waste, so I became accredited. I'm actually the first accredited consultant for the Pledge on Food Waste in Canada during the pandemic, and so I'm planning to develop this certification here, like first in BC, and it's challenging right now because the industry, the hospitality industry, is completely like one of the most impacted industry by the pandemic. But I see a lot of opportunities, and as well from the government of Canada, who is creating for the first time a food policy. So I see definitely things going in the right directions. And another project I'm excited about is the food synergy movie. So it's basically we are still at the early stages. We are currently looking for funding for that to make a documentary. So documentary from farm to fork, featuring the 7 stages of the food supply chain. So from farm to fork, so we're really going through the whole life cycle of the food supply chain. And to basically feature 7 amazing change makers made in BC who have a positive impact on the food waste. And so we have most of the interviews secured, and we're just looking to grow the community. So if you're interested in knowing more about this, it's on foodsynergymovie.ca.
Thank you for that. Congratulations on that achievement. And it sounds like you have a lot of projects lined up to keep you busy for the next while. And then for Stephanie, anything on the sustainability horizon for you?
Yeah, a big project. So a year and a half ago, I took my daughter to the Fridays for Future march here locally. And at the time, my daughter was less than 2 years old, and I strapped her to myself and like off we marched. And it was a really moving experience for me. As much as I've always been, environmentally minded and sustainably focused, it really hit home for me just like, what is the planet we are leaving for her and her generation and the generations to come? And it motivated me to do more and to think bigger. And I realized that we've been tracking our waste diversion and our estimated carbon footprint since, like for some of the stats, since the very beginning, just because it's the kind of company that I wanted to create. And we've been a part of a reporting initiative since 2012. And so I realized that we need to put, a stake in the ground and to commit to being carbon neutral. And so this was like late 2019, and we declared that we were going to be carbon neutral by 2023. And, at the time I was like, I don't even know how we're going to do this. I don't have all the answers. I just know that like we have to, and we have to make that commitment, and like the answers will become apparent to us. So we've already reduced our carbon footprint from our baseline by 80%. And so now it's just going the rest of the way, the 20%. And so we were hoping to do some tree planting initiatives last year. And then, of course, COVID happened. So we had to switch strategies, and we ended up purchasing carbon offsets in the Niagara Biosphere Conservancy, which protects old growth forests in the region and buys up tracts of land to protect them. And then for this year, we are going to be doing some tree planting a little bit later, is like over the summer. And we have partnered with the local college, Mohawk College, and the students are going to be helping us to do that. They actually, as part of the carbon offset purchase this past year, they did a webinar for the students to educate them about, the whole process of like old growth forests and why they're important to protect. And so we've kind of got an innovative partnership going on with the local college, and we will get there. We will be carbon neutral in 2 years from now. And we will figure it out because we have to.
Yeah, it's good to hear that you're doing that and combining the technology and with trees and all of that. So, yeah. So for the last question, it would be on advice. If you have any advice for sustainability-minded students and recent graduates entering the workforce, if you have anything to say to those kinds of people, does anybody want to go first on that question?
Sure, I can go. I would say to folks that are about to graduate or recent graduates, be intentional about what you want to do. Don't just try and fall into it. If you try and follow somebody else's path in life and you're searching for something, I don't know, a lot of us searched for money when we first graduated. Really be introspective and intentional with what you're doing. Make sure it aligns with your values. You're going to be much happier going to work day in and day out for days, weeks, months, years, and decades on end if you are doing something that you're truly passionate about. And if I know Gen Z, as I like to think my old self does, you guys really do care. And I don't think you're going to be as happy as my Gen X generation was sitting in a cubicle for a decade or two. I think you guys want to change the world. And when you don't have the bills, you don't have the expenses, you don't have kids, you have the opportunity to be a little bit more free and pursue what your passions are. So be intentional in life. And I think you'll have a very happy life.
So I'll go next. I'm going to build on what Stuart said. And I completely agree. And I'll give you a framework to think about this, intentional path forward. And that is a Venn diagram. So a Venn diagram are those three overlapping circles, and in the middle, like it touches all three circles. And this is a concept that comes from the book Good to Great. It's an old business book for the old people like me, but it's a classic, and it can be adopted to your career path, to pursuing a business idea, to evaluating whether a project is something worthwhile to pursue. And those three circles in the Venn diagram are looking at your passions, your strengths, and the economic opportunities. So what is it that you are really passionate about? And then for strengths, like what are you really good at? Like, what are the things that just come naturally to you that, people just know you for? And then finally, the economic opportunities, like what is something that someone will pay you well for? Or if you're starting a business, that someone will pay you for, your product will sell. And that one is really important in COVID times because that has shifted in some cases in terms of what the economic opportunities are. So use that passion, strength, economic opportunities, and look for the opportunities in the center to guide you forward.
That's great. And I'm going to build on this as well. I think once you identify your passion, really follow the opportunities, and you will have your path is going to be very different from what you think it will be, and just identify your passion and follow the opportunities. Something additionally I would add would be to focus on what you really like and never give up. You will face some challenges, and COVID time is one of the challenges, but it's not the last one we're going to experience in our lifetime. So it's really to believe in yourself and to never give up, and to believe in yourself and really be assured that you are powerful. You are more powerful than you think, and you can do so many things, and there are so many solutions that you can implement right now. And what I'm passionate about is food is it's one of the things you can do, but food you eat 3 times a day. You have the power to leverage the #1 solution to fight climate change, according to the Project Drawdown, every single day, 3 times a day. That's an amazing opportunity to change the world.
Hey, Ben, I'll tell you, on my kids are doing virtual learning here this year because of the pandemic, obviously. And today, during Earth Day, I have a son who's 15, he's special needs. And his teacher asked his class and said, "What can you do for Earth Day? What can you do to make the world cleaner?" And he said, "Don't eat meat." So just thought I'd just throw that out there. But I would like to add something, if you guys don't mind. Again, this is coming from the perspective of the guy sitting in the United States. And after the experience that the United States and the rest of the world went through with Donald Trump, it's vitally important as a young person that you get involved in the political process. Always vote. Vote intelligently and intentionally. If you do not vote, at the end of the day, you're not going to have power. You're not going to see the changes that you want happen in the world. So please go and vote.
I just got goosebumps. Totally agree.
And I get goosebumps every day I wake up going, man, Biden is president, not Trump. Woo-hoo!
Yeah, I agree with that. It's often difficult to see, or a lot of people think that politics is very complicated, but then it is something that we have to take into consideration if we actually do want to see any change in our world. And yeah, I agree with also finding the passion and the intention is very important to wanting to pursue something and actually want to get up every morning and do what you're passionate about. And so we're coming up on time, so that does conclude our conversation. And thank you so much, Ben, Stephanie, and Stuart, for joining us today. We appreciate you all being here. And is there anything else you wanted to add before we part our ways today?
Be good humans.
Happy Earth Day.
Happy Earth Day. Take care. Have a beautiful planet.
Yeah, and also a big thank you to Mario who coordinated this event. And so yeah, with that, I hope you have a great rest of the evening and also for the week.